Something happened in the last 70 days that I want to walk you through very carefully. Not because it is complicated, actually because it is remarkably simple once you see the full picture. And the reason the coverage is missing it is that it keeps treating three things as three separate stories. The first story, America is going all in on Hormuz, deploying the final blow plan, preparing hypersonic missiles and B-1B Lancers and a special forces option to seize Iran's uranium. The second story, Iran has one card America cannot take. Its oil revenue is higher during the war than before it. Its missiles are rebuilt during the ceasefire. Its leadership is insulated from the economic pressure. The third story, China has said almost nothing for 70 days, spent nothing on this war, deployed no diplomats, and benefited from every single day of the stalemate. Three separate stories. I want to argue all three are wrong to treat as separate because they are not three stories. They are one story. And the one story is not about America's escalation or Iran's resilience or China's silence. The story is about the card, the single card that connects all three stories. The card America cannot take. The card China is holding. The card that is the reason America can go all in on Hormuz and the stalemate still holds. Here is what the coverage is missing by treating them as three separate stories. America's escalation, the final blow plan, the hypersonic missiles, the special forces option is a military response to a financial problem. Iran's resilience, the rebuilt missiles, the 1.84 million barrels per day of oil revenue, the unconditioned military warnings, is financially sustained by a system America's military escalation does not address. China's silence, 70 days of zero public statements about a war that runs through China's tankers, China's payment system, and China's strategic reserve, is the silence of a country whose card is the structural connection between the other two stories. America escalates militarily, Iran survives financially, China enables the survival silently. One story. And this is the part that I think connects everything and that almost nobody is putting together clearly. The card China is holding is not a diplomatic card, not a military card, not a statement card. It is an infrastructure card. And America going all in on Hormuz does not touch infrastructure. Here is the question that needs answering. America knows China is holding the card. Rubio knows. CENTCOM knows. The Treasury Department knows. It has sanctioned individual dark fleet tankers. The State Department knows. It has named specific Chinese banks involved in Iranian payments. Every relevant American institution knows China is holding Iran's financial lifeline. Why has America not taken that card? One word, cost. Not China as a country America is afraid to confront. China as the country whose card is worth more to America's global position than the card would cost to take. Taking China's card means sanctioning Chinese state banks. Sanctioning Chinese state banks means disrupting the global financial system in ways that damage American allies, American companies, and American financial institutions that have exposure to Chinese banking infrastructure. It means triggering Chinese economic retaliation that could include reducing Chinese holdings of American treasury bonds. China holds approximately $800 billion in ways that spike American borrowing costs. It means ending the Xi summit before it produces any trade framework. It means choosing the Iran war over the China relationship at a moment when the China relationship is managing trade tensions, semiconductor disputes, and Taiwan signaling simultaneously. The cost of taking China's card is higher than the cost of winning the Iran war. America has calculated that and declined to pay it. I call it the unreachable card. And once you understand why the card is unreachable, not physically, but strategically, you will understand why America going all in on Hormuz produces the same outcome as America going half in on Hormuz. The card China is holding does not respond to American military escalation. It responds to American strategic decisions about whether to confront China directly. America has not made that decision. Until it does, the card stays in China's hand. Start with what going all in means specifically, because Trump's final blow plan is the most detailed military option description to emerge from this conflict. CENTCOM presented Trump with 3 specific options. The first is a short and powerful wave of strikes, described by sources as targeting Iran's remaining military assets, leadership, and infrastructure with maximum intensity in a compressed time frame. The logic of this option is that a sufficiently intense compressed strike package produces decisive degradation before Iran can respond with its rebuilt missile and drone capability. The Dark Eagle hypersonic missile system, capable of hitting targets up to 2,000 miles away with precision, is the centerpiece of this option. B-1B Lancers, which can carry the largest conventional bomb payloads of any American aircraft, are the secondary component. The combined package could deliver more explosive yield in 48 hours than the entire previous 65 days of strikes. The second option is taking Hormuz with ground forces, physically occupying the strait or a portion of it with American military personnel to enforce freedom of navigation directly. This option is the most escalatory of the 3. American ground forces on or near Iranian territory would change the conflict's legal and political character entirely. Iranian forces would have American targets within range of direct fire engagement. The risk of casualties that would require congressional response is highest in this option. The commitment is also most visible. Ground forces cannot be withdrawn in a news cycle the way a strike package can. The third option is the Special Forces mission to seize Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. 440 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity, stored in tunnels that B-2 bombers could not destroy. Special forces entering underground Iranian territory to secure a nuclear material stockpile would be the most technically complex American special operations mission since the bin Laden raid. The mission's success depends on intelligence about the uranium's precise location, intelligence that has been consistently described as uncertain, and on the ability to extract the material before Iran's response forces can engage. The mission is described as a possibility, not a plan with a green light. All 3 options have one thing in common. None of them address China's card. The short and powerful strikes target Iranian military assets. China's dark fleet loading points may or may not be on the target list. The ground force option in Hormuz affects Iranian naval positioning. China's ship-to-ship transfer operations happen outside the strait in international waters. The uranium seizure addresses Iran's nuclear capability. China's yuan payment system processes Iranian crude revenue, regardless of whether Iran has enriched uranium. America is going all in with options that do not touch the card China is holding. Now, what Iran's one untakeable card actually does in the current situation. Iran's financial card, the revenue from China's dark fleet, yuan payment system, and reconstruction pipeline, does 3 things simultaneously that American military options cannot undo. First, it funds the IRGC's operational capacity independent of Iran's official budget. Iran's official government budget is under stress. The rial has weakened, official trade is disrupted, tax revenue from the formal economy has declined. But the IRGC is not funded primarily through Iran's official budget. The IRGC has a commercial empire, construction companies, import monopolies, energy subsidiaries, that generates revenue independently. And the IRGC receives a portion of the dark fleet revenue through mechanisms that do not appear in Iran's official budget at all. America bombing Iran's official government infrastructure does not defund the IRGC because the IRGC's funding runs through channels that are not officially acknowledged and that China's payment system processes. Second, It sustains Iran's import supply chain for the military goods and dual-use technologies Iran needs to rebuild its missile and drone capability. The ceasefire rebuilding that NBC confirmed, Iran using the pause to restore drone and missile stockpiles, required specific materials and components. Those components arrived through the same trade channels that China's dark fleet system supports. Yuan payments for oil create yuan credits that Chinese companies use to supply Iranian importers with the specific goods Iran needs. The military rebuild is financed and supplied through the same infrastructure as the oil revenue. Third, it insulates Iran's leadership class from the economic consequences of American military action. Iran's political elite and IRGC command have access to yuan-denominated assets, Chinese investments, yuan bank accounts, Chinese real estate that are outside the reach of American sanctions. American financial pressure on Iran affects the population. It affects the official economy. It does not affect the personal financial positions of the decision makers who determine whether Iran accepts or rejects American terms. A leadership class whose personal wealth is insulated from the war's economic consequences makes different decisions than a leadership class whose personal wealth is directly exposed to American pressure. China is holding all three of those functions simultaneously: the IRGC funding channel, the military rebuild supply chain, the leadership class financial insulation. America going all in on Hormuz does not address any of the three. Iran's decision-making on American terms is not determined by what happens to Hormuz. It is determined by whether Iran's leadership class feels sufficient personal economic pressure to accept American terms that their personal financial insulation currently prevents them from feeling. Let me steelman the position that America going all in actually does address China's card indirectly through its effect on Iran's infrastructure. The steelman's best argument is that a sufficiently devastating strike on Iran's oil production infrastructure, refineries, processing plants, Karg Island terminal, Bandar Abbas port loading facilities, removes the product that China's dark fleet is designed to transport. No Iranian oil to load means no dark fleet revenue, regardless of how well China's payment system and insurance architecture function. The card China is holding, Iran's financial viability, is only viable if Iran has oil to sell. A final blow that destroys Iran's oil production capacity takes the product away from China's transportation system. China's card becomes worthless, not because America took it, but because America took the thing the card was based on. This is the strongest version of the argument that military escalation addresses the financial structure. It is also the version that CENTCOM has been most careful to avoid stating publicly because its implication that America should destroy Iran's oil infrastructure as the primary target would be the most economically disruptive action in modern history. Destroying Iran's oil production capacity removes 1.84 million barrels per day from global supply permanently until reconstruction is complete. At current prices, that produces a global oil price spike that would cost American consumers significantly more than the current $4.30 per gallon. The political cost of a domestic gasoline price shock from destroying Iran's oil infrastructure would exceed the political cost of maintaining the current stalemate. America has not targeted Iran's core oil production infrastructure for this reason, and that restraint is what preserves China's card. The steelman is right that destroying Iran's oil infrastructure removes China's card. The steelman is right that America has the military capability to do that. What the steelman cannot resolve is why America has not done it and whether it will. The answer is domestic political cost. Every gallon of gasoline America's blockade adds to the pump price costs trump political support. Destroying the infrastructure that produces the oil moving through the dark fleet would spike prices dramatically further. America has not gone all in on the target that would actually take China's card, Iran's oil production infrastructure, because the domestic political cost of taking that card exceeds the strategic benefit of taking it. And that domestic political constraint is itself a card China is holding. China's system keeps Iranian oil flowing, keeps global prices elevated, keeps American gas prices at $4.30, and constrains the one military action that would actually disrupt China's system. China's card is worth two things simultaneously: Iran's financial viability and America's domestic political constraint on the action that would end Iran's financial viability. Watch three signals that tell you whether America finds a way to take the card. The first is whether the Xi summit produces any language on Iranian oil supply chains. The summit is scheduled within 2 weeks. The official agenda is trade, semiconductors, and bilateral relations. But the Iran card, China's financial support for Iran, is the structural background of every bilateral relationship question on the official agenda. If the summit communique includes any language about energy market stability, supply chain integrity, or third-party financial flows, China and America have discussed Iran's dark fleet supply chain in some form without naming it. Language about energy market stability is the diplomatic code for China agreeing to reduce dark fleet operations. Watch the specific wording of any summit communique on energy. Code language that references stability rather than freedom or access is the signal that China's card is being discussed, even if it is not being named. The second is whether CENTCOM's final blow target list, if executed, includes Karg Island Terminal. Karg Island handles approximately 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. It is the loading point for the dark fleet's primary supply chain. It has been excluded from previous American strike packages because destroying it produces the domestic gasoline price consequences described above. If any executed strike package includes Karg Island, if any post-strike damage assessment mentions loading infrastructure damage, America has decided to take the card by taking the product the card moves. That decision would be the most significant strategic shift of this war. Watch the specific target list of any executed strikes for any mention of export terminal or port loading infrastructure. The third is whether China's dark fleet volume drops following the Xi summit without any executed strikes. A volume drop in dark fleet operations that follows the Xi summit but precedes any escalation means China reduced operations voluntarily as part of whatever was discussed at the summit. China would not announce this reduction. It would appear in tanker tracking data within 2 weeks of the summit. A quiet post-summit dark fleet reduction is China putting its card down, not because America took it, but because China decided the card's current value is lower than whatever America offered at the summit in exchange for reducing it. Watch the tracking data in the 2 weeks after the Xi summit specifically. If volumes drop, the summit produced a quiet agreement on Iran's financial support that neither side will ever publicly acknowledge. Push back on this if you see it differently. Read the final blow plan. 3 options, all targeting Iranian military capacity, none specifically targeting the dark fleet loading infrastructure. Read China's dark fleet operational volume. 1.84 million barrels per day, maintained through 70 days of American escalation. Read the Xi summit agenda: trade, semiconductors, bilateral relations with Iran as the structural background. And then ask the question America going all in has not answered. America is going all in on a game where the decisive card is held by a country that is simultaneously a trade partner, a summit host, and the world's largest oil importer. The military escalation is real. The commitment is real. The stakes are real. But the card China is holding, Iran's financial lifeline, does not respond to military escalation. It responds to a decision America has not made, whether confronting China's card is worth more than maintaining the China relationship that the Xi summit is designed to preserve. America going all in on Hormuz is America committing maximum military force to a dimension of the conflict that does not include the card that determines the conflict's outcome. China is holding that card. China has not been asked to put it down, and until America asks at the summit or with the specific financial sanctions it has been withholding, the card stays in China's hand and Iran stays in the stalemate that China's card makes survivable. The card China is holding has a name in game theory. It is called the kingmaker position, the position of the actor who does not play directly, but whose support determines which player wins. China did not fire a single weapon in this war. China did not send a single diplomat to Islamabad or Oman or Moscow. China did not vote at the UN in a way that specifically named its position. China built a system before the war started, has been running it during the war without public acknowledgement, and will be the primary economic partner of whichever outcome the war produces. Reconstruction contracts if Iran survives, energy infrastructure investment if Iran concedes, nuclear custody arrangements through Russia if the deal includes a third-party mechanism. China positioned for kingmaker status before the war started. The war confirmed that China's position is exactly what China designed it to be. America is going all in on Hormuz. Iran has one card America cannot take. China is holding it. That is not a metaphor. It is the operational description of 70 days of a war that America is spending $25 billion to fight, while China spends nothing and benefits from the result regardless of the outcome. The unreachable card is not unreachable because of Chinese military power. It is unreachable because of American strategic restraint in the face of a relationship too valuable to sacrifice for a war that China has already positioned to benefit from either way. There is one final dimension to the card China is holding that distinguishes this conflict from every previous American pressure campaign. In every previous campaign, Iran 2018, Russia 2022, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, the country under pressure did not have a major power holding a financial lifeline that was simultaneously conducting a summit with the country applying the pressure. America sanctioned Iran while buying Chinese goods. America sanctioned Russia while maintaining the Xi-Biden relationship. The pressure and the relationship coexisted because the relationship was large enough to absorb the pressure's collateral effects. In this conflict, the card China is holding is the specific reason America's most expensive pressure campaign in modern history has not produced Iran's collapse. And China is scheduled to host America's president for a summit within 2 weeks. The card being held and the relationship being maintained are the same relationship. The summit is not a separate matter from the war. The summit is the moment America could ask China to put the card down. America going all in on Hormuz while planning to sit with Xi in 2 weeks is America betting that military escalation produces enough pressure on Iran to reach a deal before the summit, so that the summit is not the moment where America has to ask China to put down the card. That bet may be correct. If Iran sends revised 14 points that include nuclear language before the summit, the military escalation worked and the summit becomes a celebration of the deal framework. If Iran does not revise the 14 points before the summit, America arrives at the summit needing to ask China for something America has been unwilling to ask for in 70 days of war. That ask, China, please reduce your dark fleet support for Iran, is the most consequential request any American president can make to China in the current strategic environment. America is going all in on Hormuz to avoid making that ask. Iran has one card America cannot take. China is holding it. And the summit is where America finds out whether going all in was enough to avoid the ask or whether the ask is now unavoidable.